I'm going to call the Marlborough School Committee meeting to order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. So the chair will be joining us. He's caught up in another meeting. And Mr. Superintendent, if you would like to engage the community with our rules on public participation.
Sure. Thank you very much, Madam Vice Chair. The school committee will hold this meeting virtually with members attending in person and/or remotely. No public attendance will be permitted. Public participation is not a question and answer session, but a time for your comments to be heard by the committee. To listen to the meeting at the above date and time, you may do so by tuning into WMCT-TV on Comcast Channel 8 or Verizon Channel 34, and you can also stream it. For the public participation portion of this meeting, members of the public may provide comment by dialing in on 774-243-0611 and then enter the conference ID 937-287-642#. After the public participation session is ended, please do not call the number listed. Again, that phone number is 774-243-0611, and the conference ID is 937-287-642#. For public participation, you may also submit comments in advance of the meeting via email to superintendent@mps-edu.org. And Madam Vice Chair, there were no comments sent in preparation for the meeting.
Okay, thank you. So I'm just going to go ahead and the mayor would like to be here for the superintendent's report. So
Ms. Vice Chair, could I ask for a suspension of the rules and maybe we could move forward with some of the policies at this time? Would that be?
Or we can do the other reports.
Okay.
Either we can do that. What's the pleasure?
Policies.
Policies? Okay. So why don't we do that?
Okay.
So motion made and second to suspend the rules. Everyone is here, so we can do a hand vote. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? Carries. So, Mrs. Hennessy.
And with that, I'd also like to ask for a suspension of the rules for adding agenda items. Unfortunately, there were some policies that had been sent in, and I think just frankly with the nature of how much that we've been pushing through, it got missed, originally being added onto the agenda. And as you all are aware, those policies were sent out to you via email yesterday upon the realization that it had not gotten added. So I'd like to make a suspension of rules for those policies, which were approximately, I think, like seven or eight, as well as a discussion about moving some policies from one chapter to another to be added to tonight's agenda for voting, if possible.
That's what I was going to ask.
Yes.
Is your intention for us to take these up today?
It is, please.
Okay. So motion's made and seconded to add the additional 7 policies to the agenda and to consider all of these for
Voting
a
tonight.
vote tonight. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? Carries.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate that. So before I delve into all of the policies, the first thing that I did want to hopefully vote upon would be a motion to move a number of the policies that are currently in Chapter 7, and I'll read through them, to actually Chapter 8. So that would be moving from instruction to students section. The policies that are in question would be heat modification, athletics, athletic concussion, sports-related concussion MTBI protocol, student athletic and activity, as well as then student fee. Frankly, once we started doing a lot of reviews, we realized that this grouping was in the wrong section, and I'd like to just try and get this all straightened out as we're trying to get the whole policy manual, if you will, up to date. So I'd like to make a motion to move those from Chapter 7 into Chapter 8, and I have sent you all a reference point of those numbers. Essentially, I'm trying to move them into direct order in the 8th chapter. So there's my
I'm
motion.
sorry, where did you send them?
They're at the bottom of that email thing.
So it would be heat modification, so 7.100 would move to 8.700. Athletics, which is 7.150, would move to 8.710.
This is the one for Mike.
Athletic concussion, which is 7.160, would move to 8.720. Sports-related concussion, which is 7.160A, would be moved to 8.720A. Student athletic activity, which is 7.180, would move to 8.200. And student fee, which is 7.191, would move to 8.190. I hope that helps. So that would be my motion, is to move those from one chapter into the other.
So we can take these all at one.
That was my hope.
Okay, so
if-
is that
if
the
possible.
motion?
Excuse me?
That was the motion.
That is my motion.
Motion made and seconded to change the numbers, move the numbers from 7s to 8s and move it into the student section of the policy manual.
Exactly, thank you.
Any discussion? Mrs. Ryan?
Just for the people at home, and to clarify, we're not changing any of the policies, we're just changing the policy number.
In this group, it is just strictly a change of policy number. All of these actually have been updated fairly recently, but in reviewing everything, it seemed much more to align with students rather than instruction.
Got it.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? Carries.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. So, for taking up policies tonight, what I would suggest is why don't we actually look at the policies that were on the agenda for this evening. So our first policy would be 4.200, school cancellation. And I would like to make a motion for approval of school cancellation. Ooh,
Bless you.
Bless you.
Waiting for another one to come?
Didn't want to be back.
Thank you. I'm sorry, I'm just trying to find it.
Just to call out on this one, nothing really changed in regards to the initial school cancellation policy. We had actually updated this earlier this year. What we did add was basically a supplement relative to the emergency COVID situation, and that is in red at the bottom currently.
Okay, motion made and seconded to approve the school cancellation policy 4.200, school cancellation with the supplement for COVID-19. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? Carries.
Thank you very much. So next up would be the student health services, which is H.00. For clarity, this has been, this is actually in replacement of a policy that you're going to see later on for policy removal. Sorry, we probably should have taken the policy removal up first, just to make more sense. But the student health policy, which is below, listed as 8.010, frankly, is pretty wordy, has a lot of things that doesn't align properly, had not been updated. So upon having discussions with our attorneys, it was felt that we should move forward with this, which is student health services and requirements. And my reason of not necessarily putting it right at this other number was, since it's really starting the discussion of all of the student health situations, I'd like it to actually be at the front of, if you will, that chapter section, to really keep things in line. So that's really why I'm looking for the removal of that other one. But this is really in place of it, if that makes better sense. So I'd like to make a motion for approval of policy 8.000, student health services and requirements.
Motion made and seconded to approve policy 8.000. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? Carries.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. The next up would be an approval for first aid, which is 8.004. This was also another policy that we had reviewed specifically with our attorneys. And the area in red that's specifically at the bottom was wording that they wanted us to add in regards to some situations that we brought up to make sure that we were really covered in a number of different hypothetical situations that could potentially need to be addressed. So I'd like to make a motion to approve policy 8.004, first aid.
Motion made and seconded to approve policy 8.004, first aid. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? Carries.
Thank you. And before I leave what already was on the original agenda, I'd like to make a motion for policy removal, as I just spoke about a few minutes ago, and that would be removal of policy 8.010, student health.
Motion made and seconded to remove policy 8.010, student health. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? Carries.
Thank you very much. So then to move forward with the policies that have been sent out to you all yesterday. The first policy would actually be student welfare. Sorry, just trying to make sure I have the right name. I've had way too many. 8.001, student welfare. So again, with this policy, we did have it checked where Jody O'Brien, which was helping, she was helping us with a number of these discussions with our attorneys. This was reviewed. We had our discussion in regards to our policy subcommittee meeting, and we'd like to make a motion to approve 8.001.
Motion made and seconded to approve policy 8.001, student welfare. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? Carries.
Thank you very much. Next up would be the administering of medicines. That actually would be policy 8.003. This was taken by a policy that was from MASC. There were a few modifications that we had made, and again, that this was also reviewed by the attorneys. So I'd like to make a motion to approve 8.003, administering medicines to students.
Motion made and seconded to approve 8.003, administering medicines to students. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? It carries.
Thank you very much. And next up would be safety programs.
Did you missed 8.002. Did you not want to do that one? The physical
Sorry,
exams?
I just had it in a different order, but I can certainly do that. That's fine.
Okay, I just was doing it
Yep,
numerically.
not a problem.
But
Yeah, it's fine. So physical examinations of students, policy number 8.002. Again, this was an MASC policy that we wanted to bring in, and had this also reviewed, had a few little changes that we made here locally, and I would like to move forward with 8.002.
Motion made and seconded to approve 8.002 physical examinations of students. Discussion, I actually had questions about this one. Did you, so is this replacing one that we already had, or we didn't have one? I didn't.
We have something on physical exams, much more specific, I think, more towards athletics. And there is a need also for having it, not one for school needs specific, as well as then for athletics. So this was actually combining much more information to make sure it was all aligned.
Okay, and at the last paragraph before the note regarding,
The health regulations,
well, the providing the data to the superintendent on some regular basis?
yes.
Is that something that we've always done,
So
or?
actually what
is
we
this a
did
new?
was because this was noting for a monthly report, which was not something that had been happening. So that's actually why we created the wording about provide data as requested. So it would allow for the superintendent to make a request. It was not something that was on an ongoing basis, that there was information coming back. And upon discussions with the superintendent, we felt like even though that's not something that he needs all the time, there might be a circumstance where he may need something, and so putting the verbiage in there about as requested will allow that opportunity.
Okay, so there's no state mandate that on a regular basis
No.
the nurses need to be updating?
No.
Okay.
The state mandates were actually about the screenings
Just
and
about the
things like that.
screenings.
And those are specific needs, not necessarily specific that it needs to come back to the superintendent on a regular basis.
Correct.
And just for clarity, Mr. Superintendent, I believe that the nurses all log that information anyhow, because I know we've gotten that data beforehand, so.
Yeah, if we have a need to access said data, we have ability to do so.
Yeah, because I know when we were looking at just numbers of visits in general.
Exactly.
Thank you.
Mrs. Ryan?
Yeah, I have a question as well, kind of on the similar lines as Mrs. Boten-Hedinger. On the second paragraph, where it says every student will be given a general physical examination 4 times in 4th, 7th, or I guess when they enter school, 4th grade, 7th grade, 10th grade. Are our nurses doing that, like now? Or is this like we're asking for the physical examinations from the students' doctors?
We would be asking for those.
I was going to say, that's something where actually to actually become a matriculated student within those areas, they must provide a physical examination.
We're providing the documentation of the physical examination. Because the way I was reading it is it almost sounds like our staff is doing the examinations. But as a parent, I would prefer to provide that information from my doctor.
Exactly.
And not have the school staff be responsible for that. So I don't know if there needs to be some clarity around that paragraph.
Can I make a suggestion for a change?
I was going to say, provide a friendly amendment.
Yeah, every student will be required to provide proof of a general physical exam.
I can do that.
That would work.
That works for me.
Yep.
Are we all good? Okay, any other further?
sounds good.
No?
Any other discussion?
Good catch,
Thank you.
Yeah. I read that too, and I was, but, yeah. So motion made and seconded for policy 8.002, physical examination of students.
With the
With
amendments.
amendments. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? Carries.
Thank you very much. So,
Okay.
Okay.
Now
So, so next we'll go with the, where am I? Safety programs, sorry. Safety programs, which is 8.005. This was also an MASC policy that we wanted to bring in and actually clean up some of the language of what we had in place. So I'd like to make a motion to approve policy 8.005.
Motion made and seconded to approve policy 8.005, safety program. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? Carries.
Thank you. And I'd like to move forward with, let's see, promotion of middle school. I'm trying to get the number, my apologies. Yes, 7920. So with this, there was a friendly amendment that Mrs. Matthews had suggested. If I could point you towards the second paragraph. Currently, it reads, students are required to pass both mathematics and English language arts or attend summer school in order to be promoted to the next grade. Her suggestion would be to add with a passing grade after or attend summer school. So students are required to pass both mathematics and English language arts or attend summer school with a passing grade in order to be promoted to the next grade.
Mary's bobbing her
I just wanted to make sure I'm looking at
Yeah,
Mary
no,
because
Mary,
Mary was helping to keep us all
I
in
mean,
line.
it's presumed that you're going to summer school and you're hopefully going to pass it, but I don't want to ever.
And to be fair, we had a lot of discussion around this.
Right.
So we did not put that wording in, but we actually did talk about that a lot. And the assumption is, as you had said.
want to assume.
Exactly. So, it made complete sense when Mrs. Matthews reached out to me about this. I saw no issue of trying to add something in, as she said, no reason to assume.
What are your thoughts on changing attend summer school to complete summer school with a passing grade? Does that change it at all?
I mean, it's fine by me. I don't have really an issue of needing for a completion.
If you don't complete?
I don't know.
You don't complete it.
One
Yeah.
could assume or not assume.
Take away the assumption, okay. Are we all good with that? So I can, yes?
Yep.
Okay, so I will make that adjustment as well. So I'd like to make a motion to move forward with policy 7.920 with the amendments as discussed for promotion, retention of middle school students.
Motion made and seconded to approve policy 7.920, promotion, retention of middle school students. Any further discussion? Oh, with the amendments. Any further discussion? Seeing none. All in favor? Opposed? Carries.
Thank you. Almost there, folks. So I'd like to make a motion to approve the promotion of elementary at policy number 7.900.
And no changes from
No
the
changes.
previous. Okay.
Mary felt really good about it.
Motion made and seconded to approve policy 7.900, promotion retention of elementary students. Discussion. Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? Carries.
Okay, so thank you very much. Our last one, policy 6.850, school hours. So, as you can see, we had some changes that we had suggested, and there was an area that Mrs. Matthews did contact me about to discuss, and I would rather bring it up so that it's all on the table. As you can see on number 4, it clearly states dismissal times relative towards weather issues, things. As you will see, number 5 has been added, and that really allows for the superintendent to make alterations as necessary, which would be somewhat specific to what we are dealing with right now due to COVID. We put that in here to try and address, rather than completely removing the dismissal times. But I will say again, it was a conversation that we had around the table multiple times about potential confusion, a parent looking back at this, and all of that. So I would like to make a motion to move forward with policy 6.850, but I did want to bring that to your attention in case that was a discussion point.
I'm not 100% clear. Well, motion made and seconded to approve policy 6.850, school hours discussion. I'm not clear what the discussion is.
Okay, so I'll explain my question. So point number 4 says Marlborough Elementary School is 12:05. Under COVID currently, 12:05 for the elementary schools would not work universally. So I did send this request on to the chair of policy, and then we had a subsequent conversation. So I would actually like to make a friendly amendment, which actually removes those dismissal times completely, because twofold. One, as you mentioned, the instructional days aligned by the contract. And 2, the calendar is approved every year, and we could put those times in the calendar. So if there's ever need for an adjustment for whatever, because the tiers are changing on buses or whatever the case may be, that number 4 can just read, scheduled early dismissal will be provided on the annually approved district calendar. I don't think the confusion part, I think is what, I don't think it needs to be in the policy to be that specific. Yeah.
You know, and one of the things, I'll just be honest, is generally this comes up around weather-related cancellations.
Correct.
And we haven't sat down as a team and talked about snow time yet, just because we've been, working on some other issues. But I would say that...
No, really?
I would say that in the next month or so, we're going to have our early release time, should it come to that. But I understand what you're saying. If it's something that we put on the calendar, then the calendar is approved yearly, and that would take care of these issues. I think number 5 is just giving some power in an emergency situation where we have to make decisions quickly.
Oh, 5 I think is completely appropriate. I just don't think there's a necessity to have the specific times
So,
in 4.
Ms. Matthews, could 4 read and scheduled early dismissal per district calendar approved yearly by the school committee, not weather-related or emergency, period?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we remove the remainder of that, and that way it alleviates the concerns that you have, but still it relates to annually we would discuss that issue.
Right, which we do.
And,
Right.
and for the immediate future, right now, we did remove the early release days from the first half of the year.
Correct.
So
right,
we have some time
Right.
to release those times and give people plenty of notice.
Okay. So
Okay, perfect.
does
Yeah.
that,
No,
okay, so my motion would be just to move forward with the amendments as discussed.
Motion made and seconded to approve policy 6.850, school hours with the amendments. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? Carries.
So thank you for your indulgence on moving those policies, bringing them to the table, and those minor amendments. I really do appreciate it, so we could get everything cleaned up quickly here at the beginning of the school year. So thank you very much.
So we can do
Oh, I was gonna say we can go to them too. But yes, we can do those.
We can do the,
Acceptance of the minutes?
what's that?
The acceptance of the minutes, would you like a motion on that?
Okay, we can do minutes, sure. We're all over the place here tonight.
Cordially.
Sure. Sorry, Julia. Would-
Motion to approve the minutes of September 8th.
Motion made and seconded to approve the minutes of September 8th. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? Carries. And we might as well do the acceptance of donations and gifts. We have one this evening. Mass DESI 116 Open Science Ed Field Test Grant for $10,350.
Motion to approve.
Motion made and seconded to approve. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? Carries.
You want to jump to Doug?
Do we want to go back up and have Mr. Diaz and Ms. O'Brien do their, okay,
That'd be great.
okay. Going back up to number 6. A, Mr. Diaz.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. Just a quick update from Finance and Operations. Food Services. Students doing remote work this week will have access to a free meal from one of 16 community-wide pickup locations. Distribution is happening on Mondays and Thursdays. The locations and specific pickup times were emailed to parents last week, and they're also available on our website. There is no application or pre-order process needed for these meals. Families need only to show up to a pickup location and inform our staff of how many meals they would like. Families will receive meals for 3 days on Monday and 2 days on Thursday. Transportation. The school year has begun, and it is still possible to register your student to ride the bus. If you have a question or if you want to register, please reach out to transportation at mps-edu.org. Please understand that we may not be able to immediately satisfy transportation needs, but we want to know if you have a need and we'll address it as soon as possible. Please ensure your students are following the safety guidelines to ride the bus. Wear a mask, sanitize hands upon entering the bus, remain in their seats throughout the ride, and follow the driver's instructions. It's also important to maintain appropriate physical distancing at bus stops and when walking home. Cleaning and sanitizing. The district has taken steps to ensure our buildings remain safe for students and staff. High-touch areas are being cleaned and sanitized throughout the school day. Our custodial staff will perform deep cleaning and sanitizing of buildings every evening with the utilization of electrostatic and aerosol sprayers. A reminder to families, there are opportunities to join our return to school efforts. There are opportunities for community members to join the Marlborough Public Schools. The operations office is seeking custodial helpers as well as cafeteria helpers. We also have a couple of custodial positions available. Anyone who's interested can visit our Human Resources Office webpage and complete an application. That's all for tonight. Thank you.
Friendly amendment, we're also looking for substitute teachers. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Diaz, I had one question. In terms of food services, those deliveries, are those breakfast and lunch?
We have 2 different deliveries as the breakfast time and the lunch time, yes.
Okay,
Yes.
like it had been prior.
Right.
Okay. Thank you. Any other questions or comments for Mr. Diaz? Seeing none? Ms. O'Brien?
Thank you.
Good evening, I have, can you hear?
Do you have a green light?
Yeah, there I go. Thank you. Good evening, I have an update from Student Services. For school nurses across the district have been providing staff trainings within their buildings on health and safety protocols in preparation for the school reopening. They've been available to answer additional questions and provide additional training for staff that will be working with special education students where staff may need to be closer than 6 feet distance, or have physical contact with students, in addition to circumstances where students cannot wear a mask. School nurses have also participated in district trainings along with administrators on response to COVID situations and are part of the building-based COVID response teams. The nurses have also been working on scheduling flu shot clinics for school staff and have partnered with Walgreens and CVS to have clinics on site at each of the buildings. Some clinics have already occurred, while others will occur in the upcoming week. Additionally, a flu shot clinic for students has been scheduled to occur at the high school on a weekend in October outside. If possible, additional flu shot clinics for students will be scheduled to assist with the new state requirement that students have flu shots by December 31st, 2020. Telehealth services. School adjustment counselors, speech and language pathologists, occupational therapists, and physical therapists have participated in telehealth trainings in the spring and summer in preparation for the need to continue to provide these services remotely to students. Telehealth is a method of communicating with a service provider using an online application that provide audio and video communication. Written procedures that include parent-informed consent, information about confidentiality, and crisis management are being developed and will be in place for the start of the school year. Thank you.
Mrs. Hennessy.
Thank you. Relative to the telehealth services, is that all of those services will strictly be telehealth, or will any of them at some points have in-person meetings? Just curious.
Thank you. It's a combination of both. So for the school adjustment counselors, there are some students that during the spring, remote counseling services was not an effective tool. And if possible, they're providing in-person services when students are in person during the hybrid weeks, or if they are if the special ed students are fully in school. So the school adjustment counselor will call and have the student come to their office. Both will be wearing masks. They're seated 6 feet apart. We have plexiglass for the tabletop to have as additional protection for both the staff and the student. So we do have some limited in person, but we will also have telehealth where it'll be either while students are in school or if they're at home. And then groups, like social skills groups, would also be through telehealth so that we don't have students in one area at the same time with a school adjustment counselor.
Thank you. And with that, is there an expectation, just honestly, to understand a bit more of curiosity, is that something when that's happening, when a student is at home, is there an expectation of a parent being present when that is actually occurring, that time of the day? Or is that something that would be specific with the student at that point working with that individual?
So the procedures that we came up with is that depending on the age, the parent needs to be home during a telehealth counseling session, especially just in case the student is agitated, and to be able to have an adult that's there within the home to be able to respond. So with the older the students are, that the adult does not need to be present there for the session, because sometimes some of the issues that the child is talking about may be something that they wouldn't necessarily want someone else other than their counselor to hear.
Right.
So, so the expectation is that there's an adult there within the home. Part of the procedures is also listing that emergency contact information in case the school adjustment counselor has to get a hold of the adult.
Okay. Thank you. Appreciate the insight.
Yes. Thank you very much.
Any other comments, questions? Seeing none. Thank you, Mrs. O'Brien. Okay, well, why don't we do reports of subcommittees? Any subcommittees with reports to give? Mrs. Hennessy.
Thank you. For policy, we actually are in a really pretty good place. So I really want to thank my policy subcommittee members and the administrators for all of your help on trying to barrel through what seems like an exhausting list. I will say that we do have a meeting set for early October so that we can continue to move forward. Specifically, there are a number of HR type of policies, and to be totally transparent, we were trying to give Patty Brown some time because she had so much to need to deal with up front on getting school started, making sure that we had people in place for jobs and all of our staff handled, if you will, appropriately. That's why we're not going to take this up until a little bit into October. So, but we will be meeting soon. And thank you again for your indulgence tonight, but really on moving all of these forward in a swift manner. Thank you.
Nothing from you?
Nope.
Okay. Members Forum. I actually have a request, not for now, but maybe for the next meeting. Can we get a staffing update? Because I know we've got a lot of hiring going on, and just curious how it's going. And Mrs. Hennessy.
I'm going to say kudos and thank you for the opening of school.
Yeah.
And not to steal any thunder that you might say, Mr. Bergeron, but I was going to say that, it really seems like Monday was a great first day of school. And anything that I could hear, whether it be in person or around town, social media wise, I think the staff were thrilled to have the students back in, those that were, and or online. And kudos really to everyone, staff and administration and behind the scenes wise, because I didn't really hear of a huge amount of technology snafus. And I think that's pretty impressive considering that this is not something that we've really had to deal with before. So I really think that obviously with the additional professional development time that was had up front for the staff, it proved to be very fruitful for making sure that everyone felt safe and productive and informed appropriately about how to safely move forward on things. So thank you to everyone and their patience. Thank you to everyone in the community. And thank you for the kids for working through something that's obviously a little different than what we're used to. But I thought it was great. So there.
Anyone else? Seeing none, I am going to suggest that we take a brief recess.
Sounds good.
And we will try to locate the chair and then see if he can get here.
Can I recommend that we take a recess till 8:30?
I
So that way if people are watching from home, they can go do a couple things and then come back. And hopefully we'll be back on, ready to go.
Yep.
Great.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Hit your gavel.
Oh. I'm going to resume the Marlborough School Committee meeting. The mayor is joining us remotely. And, and there he is.
How's everyone doing?
Okay. So-
Sorry I'm joining this way. I just got through the finance meeting and didn't want you to have to wait another 10 minutes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Superintendent.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. I'd like to just touch upon a couple issues in my report. And before I go to the first day of school, I'd like to just point people to the main page of our website and encourage all of the parents of fifth graders to please watch the music fifth grade instrument video. What a wonderful job by John Rosenthal and Jill Morin. They put together a great video, and thank you to all the faculty and staff who worked hard to put that together for everyone. I did send it to the school committee earlier on so they could see it, but I did want to just point people to it again and have them use it as a resource on their decision for which instrument that they're interested in. Also, I'd like to point people to the Goodnow Brothers Elementary School welcome video. That was on Facebook and on YouTube. And again, thank you to Principal Amy Mulcurran And in conjunction with Jill Morin, they put together a great video for the community for folks who may not have been able to visit the school in person. I thought it was a nice way for people to see our new school and get to see all the great things that are happening. Additionally, thank you to Mike Lawton from WMCT-TV. They recorded a shorter version for the cable access with myself and Principal McCurran, and just want to say thank you for that. Additionally, I did put in front of the school committee for tonight the protocols and metrics to assist in setting transitions between learning models in 2020-21. This is timely. So what I did was I took a look at all the different pieces of data that we can use to make our decisions, and then gave the school committee kind of a rundown on all of the different metrics I'm going to use to monitor school operations. So with that being said, I'd like to address the last topic. Excuse me as I get ready. Tonight I'm making the recommendation to have Marlborough High School switch from hybrid in-person learning to remote learning on Thursday, September 24th, 2020. Over the past 2 school days, we've been reviewing the data on positive COVID-19 cases of MHS students. I want to be clear that none of these students attending school who were positive for COVID, none of these students who were positive were attending school. Our actions are grounded in a strategy to get ahead of the positive cases at the high school and prevent further community spread at all levels of the schools. It is a difficult decision to make, but one that I firmly believe is in the best interest of the entire community. The administration has not seen any trend of positive cases of COVID-19 at any other school in the district. No student who was positive attended school in person. All of these students were quarantined before school started. Mr. Riley is going to be communicating directly with MHS parents and students about our period of remote learning and our dates for review of the public health data to return to school for hybrid in-person learning. Our anticipated return date would be October 13th, 2020. But if we review the public health data, we may determine a longer period of remote learning is appropriate and call a special meeting of the school committee to extend the remote learning timeline. Due to this decision, we're also placing athletic in-person practices and games on hold for the same period of time. Limited programming at MHS will continue in person only for high-needs populations. So our pathways, connections, and the postgraduate programs will continue in person at MHS during this period of remote learning. I understand this will cause disruption to the plan and to students' lives. I do have to be blunt and speak about the elephant in the room. The power to change this lays in all of our hands. This is not normal, and we are now living in the new normal. Social gatherings and ignoring the basic health standards of wearing masks and keeping 6 feet of distance is increasing the spread of this virus. If we want to continue to go to school in person, we need to stop the spread. I will not hesitate to recommend further changes to any other schools should the public health data support it. With that being said, I do make the recommendation to the school committee to move Marlborough High School from the hybrid in-person learning plan to the remote learning plan starting on Thursday, September 24th, 2020. The administration will review and make a recommendation the week of October 5th through 9th for us to resume our hybrid in-person learning or to continue our remote learning at that time. Should we see the need to continue our remote learning plan, I will ask for a special meeting of the school committee to review such decision. With that, I'd also like to say that we did have a good opening of school, and some of the things that we were worried about didn't turn out to be so much of a worry. And special thanks to everybody doing a great job. Masks were just compliance was fantastic. Teachers were instructing students on day one. Things were really moving along, and our infrastructure for technology was holding. We never reached over 80% of our bandwidth, and it was just fantastic. So everything was working the way we wanted it to. There's always going to be those snafus on day one, but for the most part, we were thrilled, and thank you to everyone. If I may, Ms. Vice Chair, I also wanted to address the fact that the state map for COVID-19. So as you know, each Wednesday, usually around Wednesday night, the state releases a map of communities in the Commonwealth and gives it an associated color to represent the risk of transmission for COVID. So it appears very likely, I would say almost 100%, that our map will be red on Wednesday evening when we get that. And I just wanted to also remind everyone of what we've all been getting several times from the commissioner, which is that you don't take 1 week at a time. You have to look at several weeks of data. So this is the first time our map has gone red, in conjunction with some of the positive cases that we've seen at the high school level, even though, again, I want to just make sure everyone understands, none of those children were in school, but that's why I'm recommending the change for MHS. However, I'm not recommending a change for the rest of our schooling. As you see from the data that I've given you, there is very low or no cases in the other schools. And the fact is, no positive student has been in the schools. So when we look at all of that together, I just want to make sure that the committee has a heads up that map is going to come out. It is going to be red. It's something that we're obviously going to have to pay attention to. And as part of the metrics, which I put on for my first report, it's one of the metrics that we obviously want to talk about and continue to consider as we're making recommendations for schooling.
Mr. Bowden-Henninger, you can keep going.
So, any discussion? Anyone want to, questions for the superintendent? Mrs. Matthews.
Thank you, Mr. Superintendent. I know that your recommendation was not, was not an easy one to make and not one that any of us would have hoped, would have anticipated happening in our first or second day of school. I look back at our meetings that we had all summer long and in our conversations to get the kids back into school and how we all have worked so hard. And I say we, but I mean district-wide. The district, administration and teachers have worked tirelessly to make the best effort to get kids back into the buildings. And I'm sure we can all say that we've gone out of our bubble a little too much at times. Obviously, this is a Labor Day, based on timing, I would assume, cause for the rise. But I hope that parents recognize that the only way we're ever going to be able to get the kids back in and maintain the rest of the buildings is if we all remain diligent and, follow the rules. And that's all I can say is just follow the rules. I want to see the kids in the buildings. I mean, every staff member that I've talked to and every administrator that I've talked to, the excitement and the happiness of having the kids back in the buildings was far outweighed any anxiety that was there prior. And as you said, the compliance with masks, the compliance with social distancing, it's all there. The kids are doing it. The kids have to be reminded to take their mask off, so please, I mean, I have young adults. I get it. None of us want to be locked up forever, but that's my own personal thing on this, but thank you for doing this, and I hope we can get the kids back in after Columbus Day.
Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. I just wanted to clarify, I think I've been saying at the meetings, I've said it at the press conferences, we anticipate with Labor Day and with school starting, our numbers were going to go up. And as of, they measure these dates ending Saturday. So wherever we are on Saturday, they go back 14 days, and that's the cutoff, and we're 8.3. But it fluctuates so much because even as of Monday, if we went back 14 days from Monday, we would have been at 7.9 and back in the yellow. So we're right there. And again, we've had 48 new cases as of Monday in the last 14 days, 48 cases. And we only have 37 active cases in the entire city as of Monday. So there's only 37 positive individuals in the city. So I just want people to realize that we're taking it very seriously, but it's not like we skyrocketed up and it's everywhere. I think it's smart to do what the superintendent's recommendation is for the high school. I do think it's important to do everything we possibly can to keep those grammar schools in place for another week and a half. They have to make through a week of school, meeting their teacher, walking in their classroom. I know there's a whole round of kids that haven't even met their teacher yet, and they won't until Monday morning. So anything we can do to keep the grammar schools the way it is, at least through the end of next week. And as Mrs. Matthews said, we got to follow the rules and just encourage others to do the same. And these numbers are going to stay in this ballpark for a while until we see a vaccine. So I just wanted to be clear that we keep bouncing back and forth a couple different days between the 8, 8.3, 7.9, 7.7. It's up a little bit, but the difference between an 8 and 7.9 is one person over 14 days. So we're right there. And we're just going to continually work and make sure the kids are safe. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Anyone else? Mrs. Hennessy.
I'm just sick about it. I hate to say it that way, but I am. Mr. Bergeron, I completely understand your perspective on it. I think we need to be thinking of the long run as opposed to the short term. And that's how I'm trying to wrap my head around this, because as I just had spoken about a few minutes ago, opening day, if you will, the first day had gone so well, and students, staff alike, everybody was excited and doing what they needed to be doing. Our problem is that not everybody was absolutely doing what they needed to be doing about 2 weeks ago. And that's where our downfall is that we have to rely upon the data from making good decisions 2 weeks prior. My hope would be that everyone, adults and students, recognize that we all have the power within us to make the change. It doesn't take that many, and everybody needs to be doing the same thing. As Mrs. Matthews just had said, I have teenagers as well. And I know everybody, all of the students, all of the adults, we all want to see each other. We all want to be with each other. And this is a horrible inconvenience, if you will. But it's an inconvenience that we are all having to bear. And if we can remind each other that we have to bear it together as opposed to one individual. I don't take it lightly. It's really hard. And this is not something that any of us wanted to have this happen at all, much less have it happen, day one, day two. And my hope would be that there would be a lot of reflection from the community to understand that if we all want these students and this staff to be safe and be in school, then we all need to do something to help them to get there, which is wearing our mask, washing our hands, sanitizing like crazy, and not leaving our bubble any more than necessary. So I'm sad. but I understand it, and you're utilizing the metrics that we had all discussed and the discussions with Board of Health, with the mayor and administration, and I understand why.
Anyone else? Okay. We have not yet done public participation. So, would you like to remind us how that works and see if there's anyone who would like to participate?
Sure, thank you. Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. I will read this again. For the public participation portion of this meeting, members of the public may provide comment by dialing 774-243-0611 and then enter the conference ID of 937-287-642#. Again, that phone number is 774-243-0611, and then the conference ID is 937-287-642#. Mr. Diaz, is there anybody waiting to comment?
There isn't currently anybody in the lobby. There is a slight delay between this meeting and the live feed on TV.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Diaz. Again, for the public participation portion of this meeting, members of the public may provide comment by dialing 774-243-0611, and then the conference ID is 937-287-642#. And just a slight delay between us and the cable, so we're just going to give it just a moment to see if anybody pops into the lobby for a public comment. Mr. Diaz, is there anybody in the lobby?
Don't appear to have any callers in the lobby, Mr. Superintendent.
Okay.
Well, while we're waiting just for another moment, just for my own clarification, so the high school will be reaching out to families tomorrow?
Yes.
To let them know.
Mr. Riley is going to send a message out to high school families. I'm going to send a message out to the entire district.
Okay. Okay. So students are still going to attend school tomorrow?
Yes.
Yeah.
We do have someone in the lobby.
Okay.
Okay. Doug, do you mind reading out the phone number and asking them for their comment?
Just gonna let them in and then just say that way they can hear us. Phone number ending 1596. You're now in the lobby. Phone number ending 1596. If you could please state your name and your address.
Erin Grimes.
Thank you. And your comment for the school committee?
I just wanted to state that the school is doing a great job with the hybrid and remote. And I just wanted to let it be known that my daughter's class has 29 children in it, and it's really hard for the teacher to deal with that. And I was just wondering if that's something that will be addressed.
Thank you for your comment.
You have one more caller.
Please.
Hello?
Phone number ending.
Erin Grimes, 10 Oak Road.
Thank you.
Thank you. And your comment for the committee?
I just wanted to say everyone has done a great job with the hybrid and the remote.
It's the same thing. It's what happened the last time.
I'm sorry, phone number ending 1596. Thank you very much for your comment. Phone number ending 9366. If you could please state your name and your address. We lost the other caller, Mr. Superintendent.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Diaz.
Let them in. Phone number ending 8975. If you could please state your name and your address.
Allison Conlon.
Thank you, Allison. And your comment for the committee?
My comment was about the specifics and the logistics pertaining to the motion that was on the ground. Is this decision to put the high school on remote? Sorry, the delay from the TV is really bad. Is that just affecting the high school, or is that something that we're expecting with Marlborough being in the red for Massachusetts to be something that would fall down to the lower level schools, the elementary schools? I guess I was looking for more clarification or information on where I could look to find the exact numbers that we were looking at in terms of this being a possibility for buildings other than the high school.
Thank you for your comment. I can address that with the committee on the motion.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Is there anybody else, Doug, for public comment?
There are no other callers waiting to comment. One more. Phone number ending 7920. If you could please state your name and your address.
Jason Young, 593 Stowe Road.
Thank you. And your comment for the school committee?
I just have to comment. I'm disappointed in the decision that's being made, especially given individuals that weren't in the school. And I just want to know when this was found out. Was this known before yesterday? Because you're sending everyone to school, and all of a sudden you're sending them back. It's a disappointing decision, and I don't feel it's in the best interest of the students. And that's my comments.
Thank you.
We have one additional caller, Mr. Superintendent.
Sure.
Phone number ending 4663. If you could please state your name and your address.
Hi, this is Jennifer Smith, 73 Fereckia Drive.
Thank you, Ms. Smith. And your comment for the committee?
I just wanted to call in tonight and just praise the teachers of Marlborough with their flexibility, bravery, and knowledge starting this school year.
We agree wholeheartedly. Thank you, Ms. Smith, for the comment.
I'm sorry, this.
Sorry. Did you hear me?
Should we ask for further comment? She's muted. Ms. Smith is muted.
She's muted. Oh, thank you, Ms. Smith, for your comment. I agree with everything you said. Thank you.
Mr. Superintendent?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
I think if clearing up the questions. I know they're just comments, but I just wanted to kind of wrap a few things in. For information about where we are as far as the numbers go, they can go on our city website, and it ties right into the Public Health Department in Marlborough, which ties right into the state numbers. So it's pretty easy to get to. The problem is we're starting to inundate the sites with so much information. So, but we try to make it as clear as possible, but they can go on there and find it. As far as the information that you just announced, this really hasn't even come out yet. It's something we've been working on over the last 24 hours, so it's not something that we've had in our pocket since Friday. I just want to be clear on that. And finally, I can't agree more that our educators, our teachers, our administrators have gone way over what could have been asked for to make this work, and they will make this work. So thank you. With that, I think we move on.
Yeah, do we need to vote on?
We have to close public participation first.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and yes, we do need to vote on the
Yeah,
motion.
that's what I wanted to double check. Okay. So, thank you. Seeing no other members of the public wanting to close the public participation segment of the meeting. So I'd entertain a motion regarding the vote to close, well, okay.
If I can, I can reread it if you'd like.
Yeah, go ahead.
And then I would like to clarify that one question from a caller.
Yes, thank you.
So thank you, Madam Chair, for that. I do make the recommendation to the school committee to move Marlborough High School from the hybrid in-person learning plan to a remote learning plan starting on Thursday, September 24th, 2020. Again, this is for Marlborough High School only. It's the only school we're recommending this for. The administration will review and make a recommendation the week of October 5th through the 9th for us to resume our hybrid in-person learning or to continue our remote learning at that time. Should we see the need to continue our remote learning plan, I will ask the school committee for a special meeting during that week.
So moved.
You can't make the motion, though.
Oh, sorry, I
He's
can't
not
make a
chairing-
motion.
No. Arthur said so.
Arthur said.
He's not
okay.
chairing the meeting,
Got it.
so he can. Motion made and seconded to approve the superintendent's recommendation. Discussion. Mrs. Hennessy.
So just for clarity, this isn't just strictly in regards to the potential of the positive cases. As a reminder, there has to be contact tracing that's discussed, and that's where some of the additional concerns are falling. So I want to say that again to somewhat hammer that home, because there were 7 cases associated within the high school. No, those folks did not ever show up at school, but there's the potential for contact tracing to involve other individuals that would be associated at the high school. So that number has potential of extending reach. So I do think that that's something that is important. It is not just strictly on positive cases alone, which goes back to the important point of everybody keep your mask on and stop hanging out with each other, please. Thank you.
Dan, did you have something?
Yeah, well, I was just,
Mr. Caruso.
yeah, I'm assuming that part of what, good point. I'm sorry. I'm still living in 1986. Sorry about that. Part of what we'll be doing with the students, I assume tomorrow, will be explaining to them what this means for they're no longer coming in. So there's something that, okay, great. I
And
figured
then
as much.
making sure that they're ready for their remote learning,
Right.
because they're going to be, on Thursday, we're going to go to the remote learning model for MHS.
Okay, thanks.
Mrs. Matthews.
And Mr. Superintendent, maybe during this discussion point of the motion, you can address a little bit of the concern that was raised by a caller on the other buildings.
Yes.
Because
I think that does need to be clarified, and understandably.
Right. I think that's an important point to make. So reviewing the data of our other buildings, there are no positive cases of students either in or out of school at Goodnow, Richer, or the preschool. We have one positive case at Jarrick, but that student has not been in school. And there's one positive case at Wickham, but that student, again, has not been in school. So the difference is between the schools, just to be absolutely clear, is over the past 4.5, 5 days, we have seen an increase in positive cases at the high school level. There's been an increase in the number of contacts at that level. And my discussions with John Garside from the Board of Health today, 45% or thereabouts of the cases in the city, active cases, are high school student age through age 29, which covers college students and young adults. That is where a lot of the active cases are, and that is where they're seeing, if there is any growth, that's the age group where there is growth. So this is a very, very targeted period of time that we're trying to stop the spread of anything that's happening, get ahead of it, and then come back to school once we can see some of these numbers receding again.
Mrs. Hennessy.
And just to reiterate, that is the hope, is to bring everybody back. Our hope is to have everyone be able to be in school, hybrid at minimum, and that's why we're trying to actually, if you will, curb it now, as opposed to potentially having it to extend to others where there has been potential of a lot of contract tracing to other students. So that's the hope, is we want people in school. Thank you.
Any other discussion? Seeing none. Because the mayor is remote, we are switching to a voice vote. Mayor Vigent.
Yes.
Mr. Geary.
Yes.
Mrs. Hennessy.
Yes.
Mrs. Ryan.
Yes.
Mr. Caruso.
Yes.
Mrs. Matthews.
Yes.
And the vice chair votes yes. It is approved.
Thank you. We will be notifying parents tomorrow morning, getting those notifications out, and working with the students throughout the day.
Okay, and we'll keep our fingers crossed and review this again the week of October 5th with the hope of going back to hybrid on the 13th of October. Any other business that we have not attended to?
Motion to adjourn.
Motion made and seconded to adjourn.
He loves that.
You could have made the motion. You snoozed. Nope, voice vote. Mr. Caruso.
Yes.
Mrs. Matthews.
Yes.
Mr. Geary.
Yes.
Mrs. Hennessy.
Yes.
Mrs. Ryan.
Yes.
Mr. Vigent.
Yes.
And the vice chair votes yes. We are adjourned.